Hi students, welcome to lesson 25, PRA, Participatory Rural Appraisal, PLA, Participatory Learning and Action. Meaning, principles, techniques, advantages and limitations. Part A. Introduction. Participatory Rural Appraisal (PRA) is a specific form of Rapid Rural Appraisal (RRA). PRA is a qualitative research technique developed in late 1970s and early 1980s by researchers in international development as an alternative and complement to conventional sample surveys. PRA is an approach for shared learning between local people and outsiders, but the term is somewhat misleading. PRA techniques are equally applicable in urban settings and are not limited to assessment only. The same approach can be employed at every stage of the project cycle and in countries' economic and sector work. Objectives. After completion of this lesson, you will be able to understand the meaning and principles of PRA. You will be able to explain the emergence, sources and organizing PRA. You will be able to understand the techniques of PRA and also assess the advantages and limitations of PRA. Let us begin by understanding the meaning of PRA, that is Participatory Rural Appraisal. It is a method by which a researcher or research team can quickly and systematically collect information for the general analysis of a specific problem or issue, assessing the needs of a particular community or area, understanding the feasibility or achievability of a particular solution, identifying and prioritizing projects, and evaluating the situation or program to be implemented. PRA is an intensive, systematic, semi-structured learning in a community setup whereby the community members play a very active role. From the experience of various PRA practitioners, it has been very strongly felt to have an attitude set for PRA to be successful. The favorable attitude includes participation by the community members as well the research team, respect for community members, interest in what they know, say, show and do, patience to listen, humbleness and utilizing the methods which empower community members to express, share, enhance and analyze their knowledge. PRA is strongly supported and facilitated the introduction of more demand-responsive ways of managing development interaction and process-oriented thinking. The latter led to sequential applications of PRA events and assisted follow-up. Thus, it built up rural people's own capacities for analyzing their circumstances of living, their potentials and their problems in order to actively decide on changes. PRA facilitators accepted more and more the role of learners. These shifts towards interactive mutual learning were then reflected in the new terminology of participatory learning and action in the early 1990s. Here, the researcher plays more the role of a learner. Participatory learning and action is a family of approaches, methods, attitudes, behaviors and relationships which enable and empower people to share, analyze and enhance their knowledge of their life and conditions and to plan, act, monitor, evaluate and reflect. The essence of PRA or PLA is change and reversal of role, behavior, relationships and learning. Outsiders do not dominate and lecture. They facilitate, sit down, listen and learn. Outsiders do not transfer technology. They share methods which local people can use for their own appraisal, analysis, planning, action, monitoring and evaluation. Outsiders do not impose their reality. They encourage and enable local people to express their own. Since the beginning of the 1990s, extended concepts of participatory processes and interaction have been developed and summarized under the name Participatory and Integrated Development, that is PID. PID means offering facilitation support to locals such as villages, communities, interest groups, associations, etc. on a demand responsive basis and assisting them in getting their interests represented. For example, getting grassroots level planning and action integrated into local and regional planning approaches. This leads to a more sustainable and better coordinated way of development. In addition to this vertical integration, PID also tries to enhance horizontal integration, that is the collaboration of different agencies, sector organizations and different groups of stakeholders within a region. Dear learners, you will find this participatory approach or PRA completely different from other methods of data collection. The uniqueness of PRA lies in its orientation towards community participation. Let us now understand the various factors which were responsible for emergence of PRA. The emergence of PRA was in the background of diverse reasons. The two prominent reasons are, firstly, mere transfer of technology and financial inputs from capitalist nations to developing nations, including India, was not sufficient to ensure development. It was felt that the traditional indigenous knowledge and practices which forms an inseparable part of rural community was undermined. Thus emerged a new research technique called RRA or Rapid Rural Appraisal, which aimed at having a more comprehensive understanding of the complexities of communities. RRA was more cost effective and were of great use to get timely information. This method also helped in thinking beyond the traditional methods of data collection like questionnaire, which limited the scope of understanding and facilitated the collection of information which was actually required. However, it was felt that knowledge of the rural people counted for the outsiders and for their respective research work and not for the villagers. It was also realized that rapidness was not required. Relatively, participation by the local people was more significant. Thus evolved PRA, whereby the outsiders or researchers would go to the field or community like village or a slum, but as learners and facilitators. The rural people would do their own investigations, share their knowledge and teach outsiders. During PRA, the knowledge generation is done in more participatory way, whereby the entire community and its members identify their own problems and priorities. PRA is thus another form of RRA, whereby the focus is more upon the rural or the community members. Secondly, there were conflicting gaps between policy formulation and implementation. The top to bottom approach was being followed with absolutely no involvement of the local people. The policies for rural development were made miles away from the ground reality, which did not reflect the solutions to the problems of rural community, and most significantly, the implementation at grassroots level was not appropriate. This resulted in huge investment in planning and implementation, but the output was not at all in proportion with the investment made. PRA thus became imperative to reduce the shortcomings of the existing means and methods. Let us now try to understand the different sources of PRA, which is extremely interesting. PRA has drawn from various sources to develop its body of methods and tools, some of which have been in use for decades. Robert Chambers, who is considered as father of PRA, has identified 5 major sources of PRA: participatory action research, agro-ecosystem analysis, applied anthropology, farming systems research, and rapid rural appraisal. Participatory action research has focused on how people generate their own realities and how they reflect upon them so as to bring about change in their situation. Agro-ecosystem analysis has contributed significantly to the repository of PRA methods, including maps, transect walks, seasonal calendars, Venn diagrams, etc. The crucial contribution has been in terms of thrust on visuals and diagrams, which enables even the non-literate to participate meaningfully. PRA draws heavily from anthropological insights about the rural and tribal people and methods of studying them. The concept of field work, staying in the field, relaxed participation and observation, conversation and rapport with the local people, adopting right kind of behavior and attitude, using emic perspective, that is insider's perspective, and respect for people's knowledge are all drawn from anthropology. Farming systems research has helped PRA in research and extension work where the farmers played an active role. The realization of the complex and diverse nature of farming systems, the knowledge and experimental mindset of small and marginal farmers, the ability of the farmers to carry out their own analysis is the contribution of the farming systems research to PRA. Rapid Rural Appraisal, that is RRA, has actually been the principal source of PRA. However, with the growing significance of essence of participation for development and to enhance the scope of RRA, PRA emerged, overcoming the limitations of RRA. Let us now understand the different principles of PRA. PRA method revolves around distinct characteristics which are briefly discussed. The most important characteristic of PRA is participation. Local people's input into PRA activities is essential to its value as a research and planning method and as a means for diffusing the participatory approach to development. Teamwork as a characteristic of PRA is its essence. To the extent that the validity of PRA data relies on informal interaction and brainstorming among those involved, it is best done by a team that includes local people with perspective and knowledge of the area's conditions, traditions and social structure, and either nationals or expatriates with a complementary mix of disciplinary backgrounds and experience. A well-balanced team will represent the diversity of socio-economic, cultural, gender and generational perspectives. Triangulation as a characteristic of PRA focuses on three important aspects in terms of the composition of the team, which is multidisciplinary, including men and women, insiders and outsiders, variety of sources of information about people, places, events and processes, and third aspect of triangulation is mix of techniques and tools. Flexibility and informality are significant aspects of PRA. The PRA exercises are required to be done in informal atmosphere and should be flexible and spontaneous. PRA has to be done in the community setup. The members of the community are the participants of the PRA exercises. The researcher is only a facilitator. Optimal ignorance and appropriate imprecision is significant in PRA. This is a major difference between quantitative research and qualitative research. The unnecessary details and over collection of data is avoided. On the spot analysis. The learning takes place in the field and the analysis of the information gathered is an integral part of the fieldwork itself. Offsetting biases and being self-critical is essential part of PRA fieldwork. It is significant to avoid value judgments and carefully analyze one's own biases. The appropriate avoidance of sources of error is important since they influence the interpretation of the gathered information. Let us now understand how do we organize PRA. A typical PRA activity involves a team of people working for 2 to 3 weeks on workshop, discussions, analysis and fieldwork. Several aspects should be considered while conducting PRA. Appropriate behavior and attitudes while conducting PRA is extremely significant in conducting PRA successfully. PRA depends on facilitators acting as conveners and catalysts, but without dominating the process. Many find this task difficult. They must take time, show respect, be open and self-critical, and learn not to interrupt. They need to have confidence that local people, whether they are literate or not, women or men, rich or poor, are capable of carrying out their own analysis. The rapport building with community members is important. It is significant to understand that local members have a modus operandi, that is mode of operation, and have their indigenous technologies, of which some may be based on extremely scientific basis. The community members should be motivated and encouraged to participate in the various exercises. Logistical arrangements should consider nearby accommodations, arrangements for lunch for fieldwork days, sufficient vehicles, funds to purchase refreshments for community meetings during the PRA, and supplies such as flip chart papers and markers and other materials for mapping and modeling. Training of team members may be required, particularly if the PRA has the second objective of training in addition to data collection. PRA results are influenced by the length of time allowed to conduct the exercise, scheduling and assignment of report writing, and critical analysis of all data, conclusions and recommendations. A PRA covering relatively few topics in small area, perhaps 2 to 4 communities, should take between 10 days and 4 weeks. But a PRA with a wider scope over a larger area can take several months. The golden rule to make PRA successful is it has no specified rule except for what is mentioned as part of appropriate behavior and attitudes by the researchers. The beauty of PRA lies in the fact that it can be modified in accordance to the situations and greatly depends on the perceptions of the local people.